Hey everyone, I just wanted to give a little bit of clarification here for the assignments that we have for the limiting factors slideshow, part 1 and part 2 worksheets. They're both linked to the same video presentation about limiting factors, so I figured I'd give the instructions all in one go. They're both pretty simple assignments, but I wanted to go over them here. So this first part for part 1 of the limiting factors slideshow, it says follow the slideshow presentation, answer these questions presented in the slideshow and the 2 reflection questions that follow. So here it says list 3 limiting factors for each of these populations. So it says here, like, what are 3 limiting factors for this population of lions? So every time I list the specific population we're talking about, so if you're watching the slideshow, it correlates with each one. So these are the slides that look like this in the slideshow. This is the lion one in particular. What are the limiting factors for this population of lions? So here it says, what are 3 limiting factors for that population of lions? You just list all 3 of them out here. And recall that limiting factors are the types of things that organisms rely on, that they depend on in order to survive. They're things that if there aren't enough of them present in the environment, it's going to cause those populations to go down. And then after you're done listing your limiting factors for each of those populations, you're going to put, excuse me, what limiting factors that you listed above are shared between at least 2 populations. So again, look through your answers through 1 through 4 and look to see if there were any factors that you listed more than once. So for example, you might find that water is a limiting factor that's shared by all these different populations. That might be one that you write down there. Look through all of the answers that you put for 1 through 4 and list as many of the options that you saw multiple times down here on number 5. Number 6 says choose one of the populations and one of the limiting factors it's shared in number 5. What features does your chosen population have to help them get that limiting factor in their environment? So let's say, like in 5, if you said water, you would look and choose one of these populations, so mushrooms or deer or trees, and just say, what does that particular population of organisms have to help them get water more easily than the other populations? Think about how they compare to one another. What advantages do they each have for trying to obtain those types of limiting factors in their environment? Okay, and so this is part 2. So here with part 2, it says, follow again the slideshow presentation. So the questions you're answering in this one, it says, for each example of population death given, say if it is a density-dependent cause of death or a density-independent cause of death. So as you can recall, density-dependent meant if the population was close together, these forms of death were more likely to happen. If it's density-independent, it happens regardless of how close or far away these members of a population are. So again, look at the example. So for example here, like frogs in a pond are getting infected with a fungus, and then you'll determine if it is density dependent, more likely to kill them off one by one if they're close together, or if it's density independent. Would it affect them equally if they were far apart or close together? And again, the slides that we're looking at for that one are the ones that look like this. So here's our frogs in a pond getting infected with fungus. That's what the frame looks like. So it just asks a question for each one of those. And then again, we have 2 reflection questions down here at the bottom. So number 8 says density-dependent deaths are more likely to occur when members of a population are close together. What is one of the things we as humans have done to cause populations to be closer together? So think about human impact as far as what do we do, either as far as development in the world or what we do in our day-to-day lives that causes populations to be in tightly packed little areas. Think about areas that you see outside your window where there's natural world and then it's surrounded by everything that people are doing. How are those factors causing certain populations to be closer together? And then for number 9, some density-independent deaths are related to severe weather conditions, like getting too hot, too cold, or too windy for certain living things. What is one of the things we as humans have done to cause one of those severe weather conditions? So again, you might think back a little bit to some of the human impacts that we talked about with geochemical cycles and the impact that we make in general, and talk about what do we do to cause some of these weather conditions to occur? What strains are we putting on these natural populations? So again, I hope that this helps you with the instructions for the limiting factors slideshow, part 1 and part 2. Again, these are both connected to the same video. So even though it's two different worksheets, they're two parts of the same presentation. So I hope that makes this easy to understand. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, call me, or you can come in during our science department office hours from 9:30 to 10:30 every weekday morning.